Thank you so much for joining us for Spirit, a stimulating program initiative for retirees that inspires thought. I'm Judy Steinig, Director of Community Programs for the Orthodox Union, and it is my honor to host this program. The OU created Spirit a few years ago as an on-site program that was held in New York, New Jersey, and Florida. After a hiatus of a few years, we're happy to bring it back now as a virtual program. The OU recognizes that as the generation of baby boomers leave their professional responsibilities, they are looking for educational stimulation. And the goal of the Spirit program is to provide active retirees, not yet retirees, empty nesters, sandwich generation people, and seniors with opportunities for spiritual and intellectual growth. As soon as we all became aware of the challenges being encountered by the over 60 generation with respect to coronavirus, we realized that Spirit would be the perfect way to engage everyone in a virtual setting. Today's session is called Thriving Despite Isolation, and I'm sure we can all identify with this topic now. We are honored to welcome our speaker, SARA BERSSON, who is a licensed clinical social worker and has been working in the field of geriatrics with older adults for over 17 years. Mrs. BERSSON is the founder and primary clinician at the Center for Purposeful Aging, a psychotherapy practice that facilitates individuals to achieve fulfillment and a high quality of life through purposeful living and aging. I want to thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy the program, and watch your email for future, your inbox for future emails for Spirit. We'll talk about that after the program. If you have any questions during the program, please email me at Steinig, that's STEINIGJ @OU.org. Okay, Sarah?
Thank you, Judy, for so much. The OU works so hard to create an amazing community to support others. I want to thank them for including me in this special mission and to express what a privilege it is to be part of the team. Thank you. Welcome, and thanks for tuning or zooming in. Well, we just finished recuperating from Pesach. How'd it go? Many people shared with me that they were nervous, anticipating that things won't go well, but it went okay. Many were unsure how things would work out, but we drew upon our strengths, our ability to persevere, and we were able to get through it. The unknown of how things will go is probably what causes our most anxious feelings. I'm sure it was hard to separate from loved ones. Someone mentioned how having the responsibility of making Pesach was a distraction from the coronavirus and all the news briefs. I'm sure everyone is breathing a sigh of relief that it's over now, but perhaps also feeling a bit of a sense of accomplishment. Sort of like, look what I went through, and I came out in the other end probably a bit stronger. Well, this isn't a psychotherapy session. It's a bit psychoeducation, a little bit motivational lecture, and a little bit seed planting. We're now an average of 6 weeks into the isolation from the coronavirus pandemic. How's everyone feeling? How is everyone's mood? Some people told me they're feeling nervous. Some people told me they're feeling depressed. Some people told me they were actually feeling calmer than they ever did. Some people are more anxious. Some people are lonely. All of the above feelings, I always say, are normal, especially during this isolation time. What I'd like everyone to keep in mind, that although feelings and reactions to depression and anxiety are normal, there's an alternative view and an alternative way to react to the isolation. The goal of this presentation is not only to help you maintain a normal and positive range of reactions to the social distancing, but also to focus on the more optimistic perspective. With this positive outlook, we have the opportunity to grasp the deeper potential of a situation that motivates us to take action that are not only good for us, but good for those that we come into contact with. We can acknowledge that feelings are real, like I mentioned before, and there's never a wrong feeling. Our emotional state, such as anxiety or depression, comes from our thoughts, our cognitive beliefs, and the way we judge ourselves, others, the environment, and the situation. If we find ourselves overwhelmed, most people can say, don't be anxious. Most people don't have control over their feelings in that way. Most people can control their behavior and what they focus their thoughts on. So instead of saying, I feel anxious, you could say to yourself something like, stop feelings, you'll get sick. Because with Hashem's help, you'll be fine. This way you put it in a positive mode, and it kind of turns your thoughts around to something more positive, which reduces the anxiety. Especially now, people find themselves with less to do. They're less distracted by everyday activities. And what ends up happening is their minds kind of focus on the situation. And then they start to feel the anxiety coming in. You should know 20% of the overall population in the United States have some anxiety and depression. But, you know, it's okay. Given these extreme circumstances with the isolation, it would be common to have uncomfortable feelings. But if you find yourself depressed or anxious, or feeling overwhelmed, you need to seek out mental health professionals to help you. Now, I just wanted to go and preface my whole speech with how these feelings are so important. But you should know that 75% of all humans who have achieved the age of 65 live right now. This statistics points to a unique dynamic and opportunity in our culture. During the coronavirus and isolation, the senior population exposed to additional stressors such as loneliness or vulnerable health. This is normal and these feelings are valid. But here is where the beauty of Hashem's coronavirus plans come into play. Now, I'm not saying that I understand what Hashem's big plan is, but maybe Hashem is calling upon the most vulnerable to the virus, those who've stopped driving society in this major, powerful, directional way to make the biggest impact. And if you really think about it in a certain way, that's really what's happening now. Society has shut down to protect those that are most vulnerable to the virus and to establish the need for the isolation. Those most vulnerable to the virus have caused the biggest impact. It's interesting how Hashem backed society up against the wall and said to them, what's more important to you, your economy or saving people? Sort of like your money or your life. Because of the impactful way seniors have contributed to society in the past, almost the whole world seems to be taking action now, or in action and staying home. They're validating how valuable everyone is. And now it's the turn of the older adults within the community to respond, to show them how it's done, to once again rise up, set an example, maybe demonstrate what this world needs during the crisis and for the future in order to make it a better place. The world needs resilience, connection, compassion, and kindness. Yes, older adults are isolated, and this can cause feelings of depression. But look at the big picture. Hashem is calling upon us to set an example, to be role models, and to show everyone how to successfully isolate. You are the role models. You may see some people complaining about social isolation or overwhelming feelings of anxiety, but be that role model. Show everyone, yes, I'm alone and isolating, but I refuse to succumb to loneliness, and I'm going to get through this. We'll all get through this. Your actions, your attitudes, and your strong mental health show others how to react and reach into their own strengths and focus on the positives. Your actions could inspire other people. Just yesterday, I heard of a senior community in Johannesburg. They're all isolating together, but they're able to keep davening with the minyan. They've taken it upon themselves to say Kaddish for many Jews around the world. And currently, I read they have a list of 1,200 names from all over the world that they say Kaddish for. They have become this connection and the spiritual advocates for these individual souls who have an aliyah. I mean, that's an amazing, impactful, and important role to have, really giving back to the Jewish communities around the world. But how do we get motivated to do this, to really rise up and be the role models and impact the world? People need to dig deep down within their own core strengths and ignore the negative thought and choose the positive thoughts. They need to draw upon the years of experience and resilience they have. You can't minimize all that you've been through in life. You have a lifetime of coping skills, wisdom, and insight to draw upon to help you get through this. Dr. Silverstein from the Gerontological Society of America was quoted saying, "You can be dealt a bad hand of cards, but have the playing skills to make the most of it." These skills provide the basis for resilience, a trait that modulates the dichotomy between success and failure. Resilience is the result of successful adaptation to adversity. It's revealed by an individual's ability to cope and recover from crisis, sustain a sense of purpose and vitality, emerging stronger from a stressful experience. Resilience thinking in older adults gives them the ability to recover from adversity, thrive in a sustained purpose, and grow in a world of turmoil, change, and chronic loss. If you think about it, the Jewish nation is often described by historians as resilient. As a people, we have been through so many challenges, but consistently emerged stronger. It's almost like it's in our DNA. Because you're all different individuals, there's no single formula for resilience. Each of you have managed over a lifetime to achieve it through varying combinations of elements within you. Some of those main elements are faith, nourishment of body and soul for strength, optimism and a positive attitude, a comfortable order to your day, a confidence in your capabilities, sort of like an I can do that attitude, concern and love for those around us, and probably many other individual attributes. For each of us, the combination of the many attributes has nurtured your resilience. With some introspection, you will know what has worked for you all these years, and therefore what will help you get through this isolation. Possibly with the addition of many untapped resources within you, because this situation is unusually difficult in many ways. As I continue, these conceptual ideas will take practical shape, and real suggestions will be offered. The idea of resilience is being given increased attention by the geriatric community. As one life evolves through the decades, there are unavoidable risks, such as losing a loved one, caring for a spouse, maybe some decline. Resilience thinking allows for people to accept the wear and tear of life while also dealing with problems and crisis. These experiences leave them feeling stronger than they've ever been, and the resilience thinking allows for sensitivity and perspective. We hear a lot of talk about finding meaning to the coronavirus and the isolation. It's in this process of finding the meaning that the resilience is built. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Beautiful young people are an accident of nature, but beautiful old people are works of art." Now, I want to ask you, how are you doing in terms of drawing upon your own resilience in the face of corona? Are you taking an emotional account of your inner strengths and coping skills when you confront the loneliness and the boredom during the isolation? Have you been able to find the meaning in the situation? A lot of people have been looking, I'm sure, very much more so than usual these days. Every person can come up with their own meaning. Most of these ideas, although they resemble each other, are probably tailored to your own individual way of thinking and looking at life, the world, and Hashem. I think we're fortunate to have Emunah and the ability to, an opportunity, as well as a framework, to understand the meaning within our spiritual and religious world. We've heard from many Rabbeim and Rebbetzins over the last several weeks as they offer us a deep opportunity towards spiritual growth, to understand the world, but to also understand the spiritualness of the situation. In the past week's Parsha, Tazria Mitzorah, the Torah highlighted the challenges of being alone during Tzara'at. Rabbi Mordechai Kamenetsky points out that being alone under the Kohen's monitoring was mentioned 45 times in one Parsha. We see how Hashem wanted to emphasize how distressing being alone is. And there's research that shows that loneliness, the feelings of loneliness and lack of connection, cause similar reactions to our bodies and our brains, that the same reactions that hunger causes. From this, we can draw upon the importance of taking the right steps, both emotionally and practically, to ensure that we are able to effectively fight the loneliness. And by doing so, we grow, we strengthen our connections, and we'll be alleviating the loneliness, depression, and anxiety. Now, as I speak of resilience, I wanted to also speak a little bit about strengths perspective. A strengths perspective is a set of ideas and practices seeking to recognize and utilize one's inherent personal strengths to promote change and lifelong resilience. It's a philosophy and a way of viewing oneself. The ideologies emphasize the individual's capacity, talents, competency, possibilities, visions, and hopes. Seniors are an ideal group to be mindful of this strengths perspective. After all, they say the first 65 years of childhood are always the hardest, and then it's a piece of cake. People in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s still are making significant contributions to their culture. In fact, the unique contributions to every culture from the elderly is usually their wisdom. Long life provides opportunities for maturing and blossoming, rarely possible in earlier times in past centuries. Jung, a renowned psychologist and theorist on human development, maintains that in the transition to the second half of life, a great deal of psychic energy is being given over to the unconscious self, which is being ready to emerge, almost bringing confidence within our own talents and strengths. With few exceptions, and often remarkable ones, our civilization has evolved within the benefits of wisdom of age. In the past, people were dying too young to really arrive at their potential. It's common to see that once a person achieves a certain level of competency and competence, they turn towards their community and give back. I see it a lot. I see it in retired doctors who run non-for-profit medical practices. This practice I'm thinking of now, the patients that they service patients that can't afford medical insurance but make too much money for Medicaid. I see it in a 96-year-old woman who gives free knitting classes to anyone in the community. She shares her yarn with them too, but they call her Rachel the Ripper because she wants to make sure the new knitters are so good, and she sometimes rips out whole rows of stitches if they do it wrong. I see it in a retired accountant I know who's the financial officer of her co-op board and also helps the young couples in the community for no charge. Or the 80-year-old neuroscientist who still sits on a scientific board, giving his time, reviewing scientific proposals for monetary grants. And then I could think of a librarian who's the dean of library science in a well-known university and now works helping others in research and cataloging at Yad Vashem. My most significant one is an 80-year-old social worker who started her own senior center in the local mall. She's taken on all of her skills, knowledge, know-hows, and effervescence, and creates an environment, or really a community, that people are drawn to and enjoy on a daily basis. We all know many people in our lives that contribute after retirement when they no longer have to produce a monthly income. I find it inspiring. But I just wanted to also mention the most important thing that you could do is when I see grandparents, great aunts, and uncles that treat each younger child like their favorite. And they really help that person, that individual, that child grow. They instill in them a deep and powerful sense of how valued they are, how unique their souls, their neshamas are, and they give them the confidence to be the best person they could be. Betty Freeman put it in a book called Fountain of Age. We're not the problem, we are the solution. In the first half of life, we're molded by these external environments. We have our parents, we have our teachers, we have school, synagogue, work, family, friends, community. By the end of the first half, people have described how they tend to step back from their outside world. The ego and the emotional development have accomplished a lot, and the confidence emerges. The second half of life is the opportunity to draw upon your strengths, your skills, your gifts, making this world a better place, reaching the potential and the purpose that Hashem has placed within our souls. We've all heard that living a purposeful life brings great joy and increases our well-being. Having goals and a reason to get up in the morning are very powerful tools and will help you feel a sense of satisfaction, encouragement, and success. All these positive emotions will help you realize that you're the master of your destiny and that you have the ultimate power to impact and change your life. Now, that being said, how do we start? Well, the best way to follow through on this is to be organized and maybe make yourself a daily schedule. Start simply. What are things that need to get done in the house? Well, we wake up, we make our bed, we wash up, we get dressed, we daven, we exercise, we eat, we manage the house, we make sure there's food in the kitchen, etc., etc. By maintaining morning schedules and routines, you're taking away the thoughts and decisions on what to do. By planning a schedule and predetermining your morning routines, you can avoid putting all this mental energy into scheduling. Your mental energy is then freed up to pursue more enjoyable and meaningful parts to your day. As we spoke about before, we need to direct the energy to more constructive, impactful things. Okay, so now that you've finished your routine, what's the next step? What are you going to do the next 12 hours of the day? You've probably heard that happiness releases endorphins in the same way exercise does, and endorphins induce happiness. But having something to be happy about sets those neurochemicals coursing through your body, making you feel healthier and more energetic. Planning in advance for the next day and going to sleep knowing that tomorrow you have a phone call scheduled with 2 friends, a project you want to work on, and a new recipe to try will set your mood up to one that's optimistic and it'll make you happier. But we also have to look into ourselves. What are our likes? What are our passions? What are our strengths? Come up with a plan. How do you want to spend your time during COVID-19? Working on yourself, building your relationships with the people that you love, or maybe you want a bigger challenge. What about getting out there and helping others, creating networks to connect people and make the situation not only tolerable, but meaningful? Ironically, yesterday when we were having Chinese food, we actually got a fortune cookie, and I hung it right here on my computer. It says, sometimes a stranger can bring great meaning to your life. Drawing upon the lifetime of strengths that you have to help you rise up and overcome the obstacles of the isolation has been laid out before you. And by doing so, you would uplift others. This can be your wake-up call for life's second half. Now, some people think, oh, I'm too old to start something new. But what's old? People tell me, oh, I'm too old. But then I say, how old do you feel? Maybe in chronological ages, you're a certain age, but your spirit, your neshama, it doesn't age. That's not how neshamas work. The truth is that our soul is always young. It just gains in wisdom. Our soul can soar at any time as it never did in childhood or youth. This soaring gives us an openness, a vitality, and an eagerness to get into life. Maturing can so enliven the spirit that even in the times of physical decline, I've seen the spirit rise up, free at last from the neurotic compulsions of materialism and competition. It facilitates a self-actualization, and it becomes who you were meant to be. Don't allow your light from within to be withheld. You have to let it shine. Your true gifts that Hashem gives you will be realized. It seems many individuals' mental outlooks haven't kept up with the current longevity and often fall victim to society's ideas that productive life ends at 80. Those notions inhibit us. We don't dry up as we get older. Our unconscious personality is a creative bed of new life. Researchers have suggested that although there's subtle cognitive decline like processing speed and data retrieval starts as early as in your 40s, your ability to be creative and to problem solve grows till the very end of your life. That old saying, you can't teach a new dog new tricks, that is wrong, and it has been proven wrong. Change and development, refining and enlarging our personalities, as well as the emergence of the dormant potential, can go on through your whole lifespan. Now, I want everyone to think about every adverse reaction that they have. It serves you as a way to grow, to really tap into alternative resources and your other potentials. It liberated you. Now, I'm not suggesting, in this big picture that you go out there and we solve all the problems that's happening in the coronavirus in the world. The professionals will handle that. But no one can predict what happens in the future. But we can have a hand in how it plays out, making our decisions of what we do today be the tomorrow realities. Your responsibility and your challenge at this point is to figure out how to use your talents, your skills, and personality traits to make the world a better and more enjoyable place. No one's expecting your actions to have this huge global impact. I just want to ask that you look inside yourself and will yourself to live your passions. Be the best version of yourself, and by doing so, you'll no doubt smile more. And others will seek you out, and they'll smile with you. When we start our journey specific to the second half of life, we discover more potential or personal and spiritual development than we could have ever imagined. And our greatest accomplishment comes from the second half of our life. So how do we get motivated? How do we come up with these big ideas? Well, it's important to say, and you've heard it before, we have to take care of ourselves. So we have to exercise, we have to eat right, and we have to sleep. We have to sleep 7 to 9 hours a day. We have to stick to a regular sleeping schedule. And it's important to go out and get fresh air. Interestingly enough, today's a rainy day, so we can't go outside. But there was actually a study done that a window view that has a tree in it actually promotes better mental health. So if you can't go out for a walk, you could actually look outside the window, and that's going to help your mental health a little. But are we doing these things? Are we taking care of ourselves is really what we want to really check in with. Maybe we should put these things on our routine and our schedules to help us really ensure that we take care of ourselves. And I always think that this is so important. It's almost like the fuel of a car. And we have so much potential, and there's so much out there that we could really engage with. But if we don't have the proper energy, if we don't take care of ourselves, it'll be hard to move forward. And also I wanted to point out, as mentioned before, a lot of the anxiety that we're feeling, it comes from the unknowns. It comes from things that aren't really within our control. If you're feeling anxious about getting the virus or not able to fight the virus also, if you get it, eating healthy and exercising are promoting your immune system, and therefore you're fighting off the virus. And by doing these things, you're addressing feelings about being out of control and knowing that you are healthier, and perhaps, God forbid, if you do get the virus, you're going to be able to fight it off. And then I wanted to point out the importance of taking care of your mind. So things like prayer, faith, gratitude, meditation, and mindfulness, making sure that we don't overgorge on the media, mantras, and staying social are all so important. And I just wanted to kind of unpack these ideas also a little bit. So first I want to start with prayer and faith, belief in Hashem. Now, when you accept that everything happens to you in a life when it's from Hashem, you move through the world with a sense of peace. And we're so fortunate that we have these kind of ideas to internalize and to really help us through this time. Anxiety is caused primarily from two things. It's caused from lack of control and from the unknown. But if you allow the control to be placed in Hashem's hands, knowing that whatever happens, this is what Hashem wants, almost like Gamzu Latova, your fears of the outcome are minimized. It's a reassuring spiritual perspective. And I guess you can kind of verbalize it like this. I'm going to do everything I can to positively influence my outcome, and everything else will be in Hashem's hands. And it helps. I'm not a rabbi or rebbitzin, but I have seen it over and over again as a psychotherapist. Whether someone was Jewish, and it actually works with a lot of different religions, I've spoken to Baptists, Catholics, Muslims, placing your unknown fate in Hashem's hands, or in their God's hands, it alleviates the anxiety. Now, also about gratitude. We all know what gratitude is. It's the recognition of the positive elements in our life. There are hundreds of studies that confirm that positive impacts of gratitude are really impactful to our mental health. And it's interesting, but an essential part of Judaism is davening. And we all daven daily, thanking Hashem. But we really need to do is work on internalizing that gratitude, and then we will really have the benefits of gratitude and have it impact our mental health. We may want to also individualize and personalize additional thoughts of gratitude, which work on a real deep level. Happy thoughts from gratitude, they put you in a positive, good mood. So you could put your energy and thoughts on things that are good in your life, and things that maybe you've taken for granted in the past. I always try and think about my family and friends, but sometimes it really also helps to broaden the list. Sometimes what I do in the morning is I make my morning tea. I look at my gratitude sign that reminds me to think of things that make me that I'm thankful for. It's hanging in my kitchen. I always think about my family and my friends, but then I rotate and identify 5 people in my life that bring me joy and make me a better person. And I also list Hashem's other gifts and certain things I try in terms of my opportunities, situations that Hashem has given me, personal traits or gifts, and even tangible or inanimate objects. All of these things I'm thankful for. If you focus on what's good in your life, you automatically give your mood a positivity shot, and you get more joy out of life. Now, we've all heard about meditation and mindfulness, but what do they have to do with a good mood? Why are they so important to our mental health? Meditation is a practice, or almost like an exercise, that strengthens the muscles that control our thought content. I recently heard an interesting description of this through the teachings of Rav Nachman of Breslov. He said, paradoxically, our minds are too busy to accomplish anything, meaning our minds are so packed full of ideas and thoughts that we have trouble focusing. At this point, most of us have become pretty good at controlling our behavior. But what if we can develop some control over our thoughts? Let's think about what our minds are choosing to focus on now. Are we focusing on the horrible things that can happen because of the coronavirus? Many exercises of meditation strengthen your mind to have more influence over your thought content. If you think about it, it's really hard to focus on nothing, or how the meditation exercises go. Focus on your breath. By meditating, you strengthen your brain's muscles and the neurocognitive pathways to stay on focus, on the focused topic of your breath. At the same time, you're telling your brain to stay away from other thoughts, only focusing on your breath. Your mind can hold on only to one thought at a time. If you develop the ability to consistently be mindful of your thought content and only allow positive thoughts, it can become almost impossible to include the negative thoughts. We're able to do this by strengthening our brain muscles and our neurocognitive pathways with the meditation. Now, mindfulness. Mindfulness is more of an awareness of a thought content. It's awareness of thought content and also of behavior and making a choice in how you respond. So when you're mindful, you're asking yourself, what are my thoughts? Are they negative? Is it impacting my mood? Are these thoughts causing anxiety? Is this the best thought to have? Am I judging someone without compassion or understanding their circumstances? So as we mentioned earlier, your feelings are based on your thoughts and your mood. To have the power that we have, that we can influence our thoughts, would be great. But we can do that once you're more fluid in recognizing destructive thoughts and choosing and being aware of those destructive thoughts, and then choosing more positive thoughts and reactions. We can respond in a very highly functional and good way. So there's no exercise that's similar to meditation to work on mindfulness. It's just simply always reminding yourself to be aware. But that being said, you can become better at meditating. That being said, you can become better when you become better at meditating, you'll be able to maintain the mindful awareness. There are many meditation classes online, and the OU actually offers a class on it. I encourage everyone to look into it. If that doesn't appeal to you, there's also other things on YouTube. You should really keep trying the different classes and find one that you're very comfortable with. It's definitely something beneficial to have. You know, in addition to mindfulness, there's also being aware of your speech. We're also influenced by our speech, and our speech influences our thoughts. I've heard many Divrei Torah mentions about being mindful of the words you choose. And by phrasing ideas in a positive way, we send the message to ourselves and to other people, a certain tone of positivity of how we want the atmosphere and the conversation and the atmosphere to go. Our words become our thoughts influence our feelings, and our feelings impact our state of mind. We have to keep this in mind when we choose how to say something, when we choose what we want to be aware of. Another shortcut I appreciate and like is mantras. Now, we all have mantras or sayings we use during the day within our family and within our home to set up coping mechanism or establish like a value system. Mantras, they're shortcuts to the emotional navigation we do every day as we process and judge our lives, really, and navigate through our lives. For example, if we experience a disappointment, let's say we were going to have a big bar mitzvah, but Corona came along and we had to celebrate via Zoom. In this case, the Corona destroying the plans, we can say something like Gamzu Latova, or my favorite, man plans and God laughs. We arrive upon a quick emotional resolution. Instead of working out the disappointments and going through the whole thing, we say, I know how this works. Gamzu Latova, I have the disappointment, but Hashem knows what's best for me. I'll wait, whatever, I'll sweep it away. It's going to work out in the end, and this is what Hashem wants. These mantras, they're shortcuts on the pathway towards resolution. So we can also have positive mantras. Who has taken up an early morning mantra like, I'm going to have a great day today. I'm going to make today a great day today. Basically, it's a shortcut to a positive attitude. Many people are waking up these days. They're feeling down, unmotivated, and kind of disengaged. Mantras help you easily verbalize your intentions and goals, as well as having in mind, yes, my head isn't in the right place, but I'm going to push myself and shift my approach to ensure a good day. Now, media fasts. How much news are people watching? We have to really be careful. Most people know how harmful too much news is. Choose your limits and how to best navigate this issue to preserve your sanity. Being informed daily should be sufficient. Being constantly overexposed is a sure recipe for anxiety. And lastly, I wanted to talk about staying social. We spoke about it above, and we're having that's the biggest challenge I think that the isolation is causing. We understand the importance of staying connected, and it used to be easy. We used to go to shul or shiurim, or, it was easy to socialize or meet people for coffee. We went to work and volunteered. Now all of that is asur. But nevertheless, we need to find the opportunities. We need to set up the opportunities to connect. Meeting a friend for coffee is now like drinking coffee over a Zoom. You'll feel better the rest of the day when you connect to other people. A simple phone call is just as effective as a Zoom. Sometimes it's even easier to coordinate. The essence of a person is transmitted by conversations, and it'll keep you bonded to the people you love. But what am I asking of you? Albert Einstein once said, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. I don't want you to feel intimidated into thinking, I expect you to solve the corona problem. Maybe start small, develop a check-in partner, either a family member or a friend to connect with on a daily basis. It means a lot to someone when you call them to see how they're doing. Also, I wanted to ask, is everyone really searching out different options, different ideas? How resourceful are you being? Have you searched within the virtual community, which is where most of us live these days? Kind of. Have you searched within the parameters of connecting to the people through the web or a phone call? I did a quick search on the common interests and how to apply them to the new parameters of Corona life. There are many shiurim on many topics of Torah and halacha and spirituality. I also found art classes and book clubs and exercise classes, yoga classes, meditation classes, how to do your makeup better classes, being a volunteer cyber pal, like a pen pal. I found a virtual museum tour lecture and a virtual city tour, cooking classes, learning how to draw, so many things available, daily music performances. And you have to ask yourself, what appeals to me? What do I like? I'm sure there's something that you've been wanting to do, but you never seem to fit it into your schedule. I'm sure you have plenty of time now, and you can. What if you found someone to pursue these interests with? What if you had called up your old friend and said, let's visit Paris on a virtual tour? How cool would that be? Or what if you taught your children or a family member how to cook your mother's special stuffed cabbage? Finally, you both have the time to do it on Zoom. I know a lot of people that are working on projects to leave to their younger family members. I know one individual, she's writing a series of essays on their thoughts regarding different topics like respect, love, parenting, working while parenting, growing older. What if you sat down and you wrote those things down for your children, your family? If you have a doubtful moment that it would be a waste, that people aren't interested, think to yourself, what if your grandparents did that for you? What if you had these essays and your grandparents' thoughts written down? Maybe if your 15-year-old grandchild, they don't have the patience for it. But in 20 years, that same grandchild, when they're balancing life and work and family, they'll definitely welcome the insights. Reading how your grandparents struggled and overcame similar ups and downs that yours experienced, it validates your own feeling, and it offers a reassuring path through them. I've heard of other projects people are working on. Someone's making a cookbook, and they're planning on collecting tried and true recipes all online. They're doing everything online, using websites they found online. She's making her own cookbook. She plans on giving them out to her friends and family, young single people, and kalas and chassans. In addition, all the recipes are being cataloged on a Word document, and she even posted them on Instagram. She said she never used the Instagram program, but she finds it user-friendly. She says it's pretty easy to use. I know another person in a similar project, they're writing down their life works. I was so happy for him to hear him really get so excited about this. Even if his grandchildren won't look at it immediately, they'll eventually get to read through it. These kind of ideas, they're so beneficial. Experts say when children are raised with family stories and family knowledge and family legacies, they grow up to be more confident and they have a stronger sense of self. This is a reason in itself to do all of these projects, to hand them down and to give legacies to the next generation. Something to really think about. And there's other opportunities to give. There's all kinds of mask sewing groups and just simply calling groups. There's all kinds of things to participate in and make a difference. And there's this new thing that everyone's doing, and it's getting very popular, virtual volunteering. There are many non-for-profits and many social service agencies that they're developing different programs and opportunities to give and receive. And there's even a new website called Corona Connects that enables you, it filters out the volunteer opportunities. Maybe you want to consider being a pen pal and reaching out to someone else. Being there for someone else allows you to bring some light to their lives. When you give, you get back, often tenfold. When you do good, you feel good. People that find themselves alone, either by choice or just circumstances, usually manage well. But people that feel lonely often struggle with depression. Just because you're alone doesn't mean you have to be lonely. Sometimes the key to alleviating depression is often eliminating the loneliness. There are all kinds of productive activities that you could do that will allow your feel-good hormones and emotions to boost your mood. You can influence your situation. Your feelings of anxiety related to the thoughts that is, everything's out of my control. It's really, well, I did this, so I did influence the situation and I feel better for it. I also wanted to point out there's such important programs out there like school programs where like high school seniors adopt older adults. Some people shy away from this kind of situation, but the truth is these relationships, they're symbiotic. Now, I can appreciate that you don't feel comfortable. Maybe you feel that like you don't want to be on the receiving end of help, but it's important to keep in mind that you're making it possible for the helper to do a mitzvah and to grow as a more caring person. But there's a whole other exchange going on here. By sharing and modeling your warmth and acceptance and confidence from yourself as a mature person, you're taking the relationship to a different place. Like I spoke about earlier, society needs to be shown the proper way to be. In a world where the younger generation is so focused on this social media, the younger generation needs direction on what's valuable in life. With the isolation, with the coronavirus, there's an opportunity where you can impact the younger generation and positively influence their values and beliefs and behavior. As you allow people into your life, they'll see how you started down, that you started down these paths and you overcame these challenges. They'll internalize how you overcame all the obstacles you faced and how gracefully you conduct yourself. They'll watch and learn and they'll internalize your elegance, your grace in the face of challenge. Not only do you offer your wisdom of age, but perhaps as the relationship grows, you can share your experiences. Lastly, I want to point out that there are all kinds of individual therapies and support groups via Zoom. And they're really there to deal with the anxiety and the depression and the loneliness. Most of them are covered by health insurance. So you could really check it out. A lot of people don't want to go near therapy, but I always say try it once, try it twice. If you don't like it, you could stop the session. These therapies are going to be very helpful to you in terms of having you understand your internal psychological workings. In a couple of weeks, the country is going to be getting back to the normal and really lifting up a lot of the isolation restrictions. Many of those with significant medical issues or simply those in older age are going to have to stay isolated. How do you feel knowing that others will be more more out there, more moving in the community, and you'll have to stay at home. I think it's helpful to have both a practical and a psychological plan for this next phase of the pandemic. If you take some initiative, tailoring your approach to your individual needs and your skills and your likes, you'll be prepared for the challenges of this next part of the coronavirus isolation. I'm not proposing that you follow through on everything I suggested here. These are just suggestions. I hope you aren't feeling overwhelmed or intimidated by the perspectives. I want you to find what speaks to you, what makes sense to you, and make it your own. 2 months ago, my 13-year-old came to me and said, let's start a garden. And I thought, okay, let's start a garden. So we collected seeds from all these different vegetables like peppers, peas, cucumbers, kale, beans, and squash. My son, he followed the directions so carefully, and he looked after them every day. And we actually transplanted the plants that made it to bigger pots. Now, obviously not every seed made it into a plant, and I doubt every plant will fruit and give us the salad that we wanted, that we were hoping for. The bean plant looks like it's going to make it, and we have a viable squash plant, and the kale's looking good, so it's a good thing I like kale. You know, not every initiative that you take during this time of Corona will come to fruition. Start sowing your seeds, start throwing out some feelers, see what's out there, see what works for you. The coronavirus is here, and we don't know how long it's going to take to resolve, but you know what? It doesn't matter. You have the reassurance that Hashem and society have chosen to protect you. We also have the resilience to avoid the pitfalls of the isolation, the strengths and the skills to constructively live your days, the insights to shape your time with impactful days, and the inspiration to reach inside yourself and let your gifts shine. It's unfortunate that the pandemic darkened the world, but if you see it through a lens of opportunity for growth, connection, and kindness, such a valuable commodity, also time, you can reach your potential. Now, I want to thank the OU for this opportunity to share my ideas. Feel free to contact me through the OU or at the Center for Purposeful Aging if you have any questions or inquiries, or to share with me your success during the pandemic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Judy?
much, Sarah. Thank you so much, Sarah. I think we all learned a lot, and you gave us a lot of ideas and a lot of things to think about. So we want to thank Sarah so much. If anybody wants to reach her, just contact me, and I will be happy to give you the information. I want to tell everybody that we'll see you next week with God's help on Tuesday, the ever popular Let's Get Moving with Exercise, and on Thursday, with All in the Family, relationship opportunities and challenges. So that's what's going on. You'll be getting emails about this. If anybody missed any part of today's program, we are hopefully it's being recorded, and we should have connections later on. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe, be healthy, and have a great Sabbath.